welcome to Newfoundland and Labrador Studies 2205. This is Unit 4, Towards the Future. I'm Miss Fleming, your instructor for this course, and this is Section 2, Lesson 4, on the Cod Moratorium. Now, the federal government announced a moratorium on the northern cod stocks in July of 1992, with an initial time frame of 2 years. This caused the largest layoff in Canadian history, placing about 30,000 people out of work when all was said and done. The once plentiful fish stocks had dwindled to near extinction by that time, and the government had no choice but to curb the possible extinction of the species. So let's talk about the factors that led to the cod moratorium. A variety of factors led to it, but the most prominent were expansions in fishing technology, larger boats, and overfishing. Fishing technology expanded greatly in the 20th century, allowing fishers to catch larger quantities of cod. This came from vessel and net design, electronic navigational aids, and fish-finding instruments, none of which were a bad thing because it made fishing efficient, but it also had a negative effect. Remember, we talked about a lot through this course, cause and effect relationships, and this was an effect that probably wasn't foreseen. The fishery expanded in its reach with larger and more powerful boats, with longliners and trawlers. Factory freezer trawlers allowed for vessels to maintain offshore for months, as they were essentially floating fish plants. And in the 1970s, Canada extended their fishing territory to 200 nautical miles and set catch quotas that were highly overestimated. This overfishing depleted the stocks through the 1980s. Let's talk about international exploitation and that overfishing. International fleets were an issue at the time as well, with foreign fleets harvesting about 80% of the catch in 1968. Despite the catch quotas and efforts of the International Commission for the Northwest Atlantic Fisheries, overexploitation, specifically from foreign countries, had a drastic effect. Many nations feared conservation efforts would result in economic losses because, you see, the fishery was one of the world's major employers, so it's not just affecting Newfoundland and Labrador, but it was one of the world's major employers at the time. To avoid economic hardship, Canada and other Northwest Atlantic Fisheries Organization nations, or NAFO, attempted to keep quotas as high as possible, so trying to achieve this balance between conservation and quotas so that there wasn't economic collapse. And illegal fishing was also an issue in the 70s and the 80s, along with the European Union setting their own quotas for Spain and Portugal, not respecting NAFO's limits. Some vessels also even flew false flags to get past NAFO. If you take a look at this chart here on this slide, you can see the levels, the amount of fish that was caught through to the 1970s, and then the drop because the fish were just not getting to be replenished at all. So we must talk about the economic fallout. Once the moratorium was called, over 30,000 fishers and fish plant workers were out of work. The federal government offered those laid off remuneration of $225 a week. So it's not nearly enough to support their families. Programs were put in place to help people retrain for other industries, but these were met with resistance, as many older people in the industry felt that they could not train for a new career. Canada's Auditor General stated in 1997 that the government programs had failed, and the only thing they succeeded at was making people dependent on government assistance. Many people switched to fishing snow crab or shrimp, but economic prospects were few, causing many people to move elsewhere for work. And 8 towns have resettled from 1992 to 2023, when I'm recording this video, due to the cod moratorium. Many communities, even if they still exist, have been drastically affected, such as this community right here. This is Conch. It's on the northern peninsula. I have some very close friends from Conch and Croak. If you're not familiar with where it is, here it is all the way up there. It's a beautiful little town. So let's talk about the future cast. of the cod industry. As of the recording of this video in 2023, the cod moratorium has not been lifted. There has been commercial fishing allowed over the years, but not on a consistent basis. According to the federal government, cod stocks have increased slightly, but they still remain in the critical zone, so it wouldn't make sense for conservation to completely open it up. In 2006, a recreational food fishery was opened, which continues every summer. As of 2023, it allows for 5 fish per person per day, with a maximum of 15 fish for 3 people or more per boat. So if there's more than 3 people in the boat, you're still only allowed to catch 15 fish. And that food fishery is open for 39 days in the summer and for an additional 10 days in the fall. The food fishery has become a large part of my family. These 2 pictures are actually from myself. This is Bay de Verde. If you're unfamiliar with Bay de Verde, this is where it is on the map. And it's a small fishing town. There is still an active fish plant here, Quinlan's, but people have a very big tie to the recreational food fishery in the summer, including my husband's family. And that's actually my son in his grandfather's boat last summer. It's something that we enjoy as part of our culture and identity. The commercial cod fishery still remains uncertain, and the loss of the industry has been considered one of the most significant economic impacts in our history. So now it's time to review. I have some activities for you in Brightspace, including a mini assignment on writing an elegy for the cod fishery. You will see in the activities from the news broadcasts that people got very, very heated. I will tell you, there is some language in the videos. People, like I said, were very, very passionate at, of course, the losing of their livelihood. I hope you have a great day, and take care.